Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Market Snapshot series. My name is Rufus Kamau, Markets Analyst at FX Pesa. So today we'll be talking about the top highlight events that are expected to be moving the markets this week. So we'll go through the economic calendar. We'll also be looking at the technical analysis, trying to understand the key market structures. And once we go through this, hopefully everyone will trade from an informed perspective. So as always, this session doesn't represent any form of investment advice. It's not a recommendation to trade, so always do your own due diligence. So hello, Paul Kerry. Welcome, and thank you for being the first to join and comment. You can see Corinne Waidera in the house. Charles Anangwe, thank you for joining. Collins Kabehere, thank you guys for joining. So let's get this done. So first thing, China's export growth cools. China's export rose by 4.8% year-over-year in May, slightly below expectations of a 5% increase and easing from April's 8.1% gain. So this marked weakest export growth in 3 months, weighed down by a sharp 34.5% plunge in shipments to the US, the steepest drop in over 5 years. Amid the continued impact of Trump-era tariffs, meanwhile, sales of rare earths were up 23% from the prior month. So clearly, we are seeing China's export sector being hurt by Trump's tariffs, and now this is a big concern. So hopefully, unless they get into a deal, this is bound to affect both the Chinese and the US economy. And with the export sector being hurt by Trump's tariffs, then we also expect the trade sector to be hurt in the US equally as well. So outside of that, looking at the top highlights this morning, China consumer prices fall for the fourth month. Yes, inflation is really dropping in China. Second, euro rises above 1.14 amid trade talks and ECB signals shift. European stocks kick off the week on a cautious tone. So we are no longer seeing the strong bullish momentum that we were seeing last week. So iron ore slips on weak China data. Brent holds its weekly gains, and Japan's Q1 GDP revised upward, but growth stalls. Okay, sorry for that. Let's move on with the presentation. So on the economic calendar front, this is what we are looking at. Nothing much that we can say is on Monday. So besides the early morning data from China, which was the consumer price index, which was down 0.1%. So it's the same as the previous reading. So we are looking at inflation basically turning into deflation in China. And this is a good thing, especially for Chinese equities, but then not the very best thing for the Chinese currency. So with what we are looking at here is basically on one side, the Chinese currency strengthening, but then the stock market is bound for a strong rally given the low inflation numbers. And at the same time, we are looking at the potential quantitative easing by the People's Bank of China, which would likely drive stocks higher. So in this case, we're seeing inflation moving further back downwards and getting more and more into negative territory. So for the producer price index, it dropped by 3.3%, further dipping back down. So we all remember the COVID area, 2020, and how inflation was on the rise. With China, it peaked at 13.5%, and the month was November 2021. Now we are seeing the exact opposite, with inflation now moving further back downwards. So for producer prices, we are looking at negative 3.3%, meaning that goods are becoming cheaper and cheaper. And this is expected to drive sales for a lot of companies and drive stocks higher. So we could be seeing some recovery happening from this. So with CPI and PPI coming in below expectations or lower than we expected, then this basically means that we could be seeing goods and services prices moving further downwards, and this is more likely to strengthen the Chinese currency, but then also strengthen the Chinese stock market. So outside of that, today we're looking at a Wheat Monday. It's basically a Pentecostal holiday. Most forex brokers will remain open for every holiday except Christmas and New Year's Day. Stock markets and banks have slightly different holiday schedules, and today being Wheat Monday, it's one of those days. So we should be expecting to see a very slow European market. So for Switzerland, for the Eurozone, and for Germany, we expect a public holiday. So nothing much of activity happening today, but then more activity will be expected in the markets later tomorrow. So going on for the things to expect in the markets this week, we will be looking at the jobs market report from the UK at 9 a.m. tomorrow. So the average earnings index month, quarter over year, we're expecting a 5.3% increase, slow down from 5.5% in the previous reading. And then the number of people claiming for unemployment insurance, we're expecting almost double, 9.5K up from 5.2K. But then for the unemployment rate, we're expecting a slight increase to 4.6%, up from 4.5% in the previous reading. So this will be a very interesting data point that is expected to bring in volatility for the UK pound traders. Then on Wednesday, the main event will be the CPI data from the US. In this case, we're expecting that US inflation may have ticked up to 2.5%, up from 2.3% in the prior reading. So this is year-over-year reading, whereas core CPI is expected to have increased by 0.3% on the month compared to the previous reading of 0.2%. So later on Thursday, we'll be looking at the GDP data from the UK, where we're expecting a negative 0.1% decrease. In this case, economy contracting in the UK compared to the prior reading of a positive 0.2% expansion. Then we look at the core producer price index at 3:30 p.m. on Thursday. This is for the US economy. We're expecting a 0.2% increase compared to the previous reading, where there was a drop of negative 0.5%. Then the unemployment claims, 241K versus 247K in the prior reading. Then Friday, we look at the preliminary University of Michigan consumer sentiment survey, and this will be at exactly 5 p.m. So clearly, it's quite a slow week. We don't expect much to be happening in the markets this week. So let's jump straight into some technical analysis, try to understand what are the key prevailing chart patterns and how this might be affecting the markets. So good morning, Charles Anangwe, can see Collins Kavehere. Thank you guys for joining. Of course, if you have any questions related to the presentation, feel free to type that and comment in the comment section, and I'll be responding to that right away. So as we start the week with a lot of bank holidays, we know that the dollar index has been weak since the market opened this morning. So with a very weak dollar index, then we are basically looking at the dollar being weak against the Swiss franc. So from the 1 hour chart, this is what we are looking at. So a market that was pretty strong on on Friday last week, today we are seeing a very weak market. And now the potential for the market retesting Friday's low becomes quite realistic. So here we are looking at potentially the market going all the way back down to where Monday's low was. And this is a price level of 0.81788. And this is for dollar traded against the Swiss franc. So for Euro USD, here we are seeing potential rebounds. Basically, the market retesting a key level support and going back higher. So in this case, a key level target will be 1.14536. And for pound USD, it's still the same thing. We're looking at the level that we last saw as a high. So in this case, the previous high here was at 1.35936, and we expect the market to be retesting the same price action level. So for AUD USD, we're also seeing the same thing, the Australian dollar being pretty strong. Looking to retest the previous high, so 0.65316 seems like a nice target. The other side is USD JPY. Here you're looking at the dollar regaining some momentum against the yen. And of course, the last price that we observed on Friday, which was a low, was a key level test. In this case, we are looking at this area here. So now, if the market is now reversing and we are seeing the dollar being pretty weak against the yen, then the key level target will be 143.508. So as for gold, everyone's favorite pair here, we are looking at a pullback that happened last week on Thursday and Friday. So we saw the market basically trading in this channel, moving back downwards, but then eventually breaking last week. But then after breaking and getting to a previous high, we saw the market pulling back, and the pullback went right back to the trend line here and bounced off quite well this morning. And now we're expecting the market to be pushing higher. So there's quite a number of key levels to be observing. One of them would be that 343, and the next one would be around the 365. So key price action areas represent 33.43 and potentially extending to 33.65. But for now, it seems more of a bullish day, having seen the market move downwards earlier in the day, recover some of the losses, and now in the positive territory. So the key level target is 33.43. So on the oil side, we have seen a strong rally from the previous support area. So clearly, a very strong gain, key level break from a key level trend line. So of course, we know that the overall outcome is that the market rallies to the top of the pattern here. And the top of the pattern here represents a price action level of 67.894. So in this case, in the short run, we expect the market to continue pushing higher. So we had the pullback early in the morning, but then that pullback was quickly captured. So this is a key level area where the market pulled back, didn't hold for long, and now we're looking at the potential bounce and move a bit higher. So for UK oil, we expect the market to continue with the rally, having broken above this trend line. So we go to the top of the pattern. The pattern started here. So clearly, potential rally to 67.894 price action area. So as for US equities, they're still very bullish, despite seeing the key level breakup between Trump and Elon Musk. So the market has been responding positively. From Friday, we have had a very strong bullish momentum, so which is in continuity of the recovery path. So 3 weeks ago, this was the highest price we had on the Dow, and the market is now currently retesting and testing to see if it can break above that. So any break above 42,827 would basically more likely mean that we keep pushing higher. And I'll also be very positive about the Nasdaq as well as the SP 500 indices. So good chance that we see some further upside momentum from these indices as they look to get into a new all-time high. So Bitcoin made a very strong sell-off last week. We literally got to a level that we hadn't anticipated. Remember, we talked about 102,097 price action level, but in this case, the price extended all the way down to 100,415 before bouncing on and moving on higher. And now this week, of course, we expect that the people who bought the bottom are gonna push the prices a bit higher. So good chance that we see the market retesting the previous high of 111,151. So for New Zealand USD, it's a pretty easy trade. The market is retesting and attempting to push last week's high. So good chance that we see more upside potential. So far, the New Zealand dollar is the strongest currency in the markets right now. So good chance that we see the market pushing even higher. So New Zealand USD seems like a nice and interesting market to be looking for a bullish position. Perhaps even the chart of the day could be the New Zealand USD pair. So on the other hand, if you look at European equities, they have had their pullbacks. They've had their fair share of pullbacks, but then a lot of rejection on lower prices, which implies that we could be seeing the market moving higher. So that's for the German 40 stock market index. For the Spanish 35 IBEX, I think is the same setup we have seen in a previous chart. Market breaking on the upper trend line, and now we expect the market to push even higher. and retest the previous high at 14,362 price action level. For the French stock market index, if you go to the 4-hour chart, we already broke towards the upper side, pulled back, and now we are looking at potentially moving even higher. And of course, the previous high is all the way up. So the previous high is around 7,951 euros per share. So a strong bullish momentum is expected here. For the Swiss stock market index, here we are looking at a potential push towards the previous high. And of course, the previous high is not very far off. So after having broken the upper trend line, we are looking at an extension of this rally to 12,450. And then for the Netherlands 25 cash index, here we remain within the same range. So here a strong rally towards 934.46. And lastly, for the Norway stock market index, here if you look at the daily stock market chart, we are basically looking at a market that is already hit a new all-time high. So from the 1-hour time frame, even if you zoom out, then it's a temporary pullback. Then good chance that we see more of a continuation of the same. So perhaps a retest of the previous low, which was the lowest price on Friday. So a retest of this area would likely imply that we see buyers coming in and pushing prices higher. So it's more of a wait and see kind of scenario to see how much price pulls back and then identify entry opportunities. So outside of that, we have the newest episode of the Bullish Banter podcast. It's already out. So I'll just take a moment and show you what we have here. So this is the latest episode that we released about 3 days ago, where we get to talk about bonds, oil, as well as global power plays. So make sure to check it out, go through the episode. There's a lot more to learn about what's currently happening in American as well as Japanese bonds, what's happening in the oil market, and what is being done by the OPEC Plus countries. And at the same time, looking at Trump, Putin, looking at Xi Jinping, and at the same time also looking at Elon Musk and the relationship that these guys have and how all this information is driving the global markets. So make sure to check it out, listen in, share your feedback, share this with your friends, and hopefully we get to have a positive conversation where everyone trades from an informed perspective. So as usual, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for your time. And of course, if we had to select a chart for the day, that will be most likely New Zealand USD. And of course, the New Zealand dollar continues to gain against the US dollar. So good chance that we see the market retesting the previous high, which is a high that we saw on Thursday last week. So that's it for the day, and enjoy the rest of your day.